damaged or maimed or anything like that. But if he gets in the way, that's his fault, unfortunately.
Dennis had this great line that he bowled.
Bowled.
His ability to move the ball as much as bowl fast that intimidated the batsman.
Between them, Lilee and Thompson took 58 wickets in a crushing 4-1 victory. Lilee took a further 21 wickets to help retain the Ashes in England later that summer.
He was special, no doubt about that.
Guide that the West Indies would ultimately learn from following their tour to Australia in 1975-76.
Fast bowling becomes the way to win matches. Template for success in the future.
You got to.
Doesn't matter how well you think you'll conquer Dennis. You know, there's always something that comes up unexpected. He was a magnificent fast bowler.
We went to Australia and they were just totally.
Not everyone likes the ball around about.
With Lilee in attack, Australia went from strength to strength. In 1977, he produced arguably his finest form in the centenary test against England in Melbourne. His 11 wickets in the match, the decisive factor in Australia's win.
To play on the centenary test is a prime example of that.
You had to think about it a little bit more.
I think some of
By the mid-70s, led by the firepower of Lilee and Thompson, the batting genius of Greg and Ian Chappell, and the wicket-keeping of Rod Marsh, Australia were the team to beat.
Particularly, we're sitting there seeing all these crowds full, and we were getting $200 a test.
A semi-professional type of game. Playing cricket alone is just not good enough, especially if you've got a family.
He is among the first signatories to World Series cricket because he feels so strongly about the way in which the game failed to look after him in the early 70s.
In 1979, the two forms of the game reunited, and Dennis Lilee was back playing Test cricket for Australia, now one of the veterans of a young and promising team.
Bowled him, that's the end of Roberts, finishing off the day with a wicket there in the most emphatic fashion.
Yeah, he just led the attack, and while he was playing, you know, you're just never out of the game.
Despite his experience, Lilee was becoming increasingly hot-headed. In December 1979, it was his batting that made headlines, becoming the first player in cricket to use an aluminium bat.
Useless, absolute shocker, but we didn't tell Dennis that.
He was taking great chunks out of the cricket ball. Mike Brearley certainly got Dennis's back up when he said that he shouldn't be using the aluminium bat.
Give me the blinking aluminium bat here and take one of the wooden ones.
Dennis hurled it across the field and replaced it with a traditional wooden one in the end.
He's raced up, touched down at Dennis's end. We looked up to see Dennis, you know, with his boot out there, and we're thinking,
If I live longer than Dennis and he's on his deathbed and I ask him the question, did he actually ram the bat into your ribs? I think he'll have to say no, because I was
approach. He was just such a blinking competitor.
That fiery relationship continued when Kim Hughes assumed the captaincy. At times, Lilee was unmanageable.
There were some days where Dennis wanted 25 on the field, and the thing was not to argue with him. So the deal was that if anybody could have Dennis's ear, it would be Rod.
The thing about my relationship with Dennis was, I mean, I watched him very closely. You know, I batted against him in the nets a lot. He tried to kill me in the nets on many an occasion. But I reckon I knew what he was going to do before he did it.
Court Marsh bowled Lilee became one of the most often repeated statistics in cricket. Between them, the pair from Perth accounted for 95 Test wickets, the most successful bowler-fielder combination in cricket history. And as Lilee entered the twilight of his career in the early 80s, his fire remained undimmed. For while Dennis Lilee was bowling, Australia was still a formidable force in the game.
I'd been with him since about 1970, so I didn't see any different
things. Those little edges just carrying through to Rod Marsh.
The records continued to tumble. His 10 wickets against the West Indies in December 1981 saw him overtake Lance Gibbs as the highest Test wicket taker of all time. But at the beginning of 1984, Lilee called time on his glorious career. Fittingly, in his last match against Pakistan, he took 8 wickets.
I think he could have played on for another few years easily, even though he didn't have the blinding pace that he had in his younger days.
Physically, I could play for another 3 or 4 years. Mentally, I'm not quite sure that I could, and probably mentally more than anything else. I realise that it's very hard to keep setting goals and to keep pushing yourself in a situation where you've been playing top sport for 14 years.
Dennis, to me, is the greatest fast bowler that I've ever seen, without doubt. I wish the younger players...
And have a look at that Dennis Lilee statue. You can be approaching from 100 metres away and you can see the silhouette and you know that is Dennis Lilee.
It's not just Dennis and his technique, it's the influence he had on people.
What a beautiful ball that by Dennis Lilee. He said to us when I was 16, there was a whole heap of us at a clinic down here. He goes, boys, come in here, I'll tell you the 3 secrets of success. And we're going, oh yeah, Dennis Lilee, the 3 secrets of success, what are they? He goes, the first secret, you got to work hard. We're going, oh, right.
Dennis Lilee, for me, was my role model.
I'd learnt off Dennis Lilee in the backyard. You know, we used to watch him on TV. I was Dennis Lilee with my brother John in the backyard, and there'd be Jeff Thompson coming in and slinging the balls.
Second secret, come a bit closer, I'll tell you. You got to work hard.
When I speak to the other quicks in the team at the same time, I think Dennis Lilee was their hero as well. And you know, we call ourselves the fast bowling cartel, FBC. And when we see each other, that's the secret. So is the across the forehead and flick it like Dennis did. So the legend lives on.
Anyone know what the third secret? You got to work hard. You're bloody right. You got to work hard. If you don't work hard, you won't be any good. And that's what Dennis Lilee, and he's been the same ever since.